So let's talk, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about something I find truly I do not understand. Um, and I truly don't understand for a lot of different reasons. But this is one of the reasons that I genuinely do not understand. So essentially, what we're going to talk about today is a lot of different topics. I think one topic I'm going to talk about is this backpedaling I've seen from artists or people, because essentially what we saw last week was we saw 616 in LA. We've seen 616 LA, Euphoria, Push Up, Family Matters, The Heart Part 6. We've seen so much in Not Like Us. And that last week, which I did record, um, we we had been dealing with a lot of different things, right? And essentially, we had argued essentially from this argument that we have seen music production done at a height and a level in which we've never seen it done before. Which from that argument is true. We hadn't seen music being pushed out every single day in a release, right? We've seen Drake drop in 2 weeks. It really took out the whole month of May and April. But you know, it it took Childish Gambino's release date. It took Party Next Door release date. Essentially, Drake responded to Not Like That. We waited. We waited 2 weeks. J. Cole put something in to let people arm themselves with a battle. So that was always fun, right? We've seen so many people produce songs back to back to back. So many different producers. We had that boy One. We had Metro. We had The Alchemist, right? We had so many producers in hip hop, famously for what they've done, do so many different things that if we had ever saw it at one level, we had never seen it done in such a way, right? We've seen so many producers over a span of what it seems like a month looking back, but it was a week, right? We had that Euphoria beat switch up, we had that Push Up beat switch up, we had Family Matters, we had that, and that was a bulk of information. We had 616 in LA that strategized what we essentially saw and Not Like Us, which we saw strategy versus ability. We saw lyrical ability versus factual information, which we still haven't received proof on a year later. Um, but there was a diss track, and I have to address this, right? Because he said this, and this is what doesn't make sense to me. Because he goes and says, um, Rick Ross goes in an interview and says that they can handle this conversation if he buys him a Bel Air bottle, a white Bel Air bottle. Him and Drake could be friends. But he stated in the issue what his issues were with Drake. And so this is the conversation. I have a conversation because I want to pose this question because I have a question about this conversation. Um, is it ever right? Because this is essentially what we're dealing with. Is it ever right to go with two people dissing and you just say you put the reason why you dissed them in the song, but when you go look at the song, you say what you did on French Montana, right? What you did in French Montana is the reason you're not cool with him. But you said he wasn't that same white boy that you saw in the state in your other videos in the state scheming, right? And you said at the same point you said pay Weezy. But my concern with this is though, Rick Ross, you have to see the similarities, right? Or maybe it's just me. Because you were a PO. You were a parole officer, right? And to that extent, not a parole officer, but an officer, not a bailiff officer, not a police officer, I want to say a corrections officer. We'll go with corrections officer, right? You're a corrections officer, but then that name that name Rick Ross came from Freeway. All right, Freeway Rick Ross that many people don't know about, but they will claim all their holy and thou hip hop names, right? And nobody will call you out on it because you're Rick Ross, right? but he's not Freeway, so it does like no. If you want people to pay homage to other people and pay credits where credit is due, right? And the stuff you did for Weezy, right? It's a shame because what people are saying about you is what you're saying about Drake is what the same people have said about you, right? So you have to see the hypocritic. This is what I'm saying. If you attack Drake, and this is my issue, if you attack Drake, you can't then be referred to as a hypocrite on other songs. And I don't think people understand that aspect of hip hop. And this is my issue with Ross. He says it's not deeper than that, right? He says that it wasn't deep, but he expressed it in champagne moments. But I'm not understanding. Like, you were on a hot mic. I don't understand. You were on a hot mic. You talked about it, and that he wasn't that type of guy to stay scheming, right? So, like, what exactly are we arguing here? Because either you're arguing that you have to play it better, but you're telling stories but your albums have been dedicated to Teflon Doms, have been dedicated to criminals that have served time in jail. Now, the correlation can't be proven that the stories you get from were people that were in jail at the same time you were, but you're paying homage to them, right? But Rick Ross, we gotta talk, boy, because at that same point, right, if you're saying do that, at one time you said Wayne was having money troubles with Birdman, so you said pay him, right? But I remember we had an earlier discussion a couple years ago where you weren't paying Meek Mill to get out of his contract, right? So it's like you're being a hypocrite, but the same thing be said about you, and that's what I'm not understanding. People attack Drake from that angle of which, oh, you were this, this, and this, but never attacks him from an angle that they can be criticized about, right? Which is weird because no one attacks him the way that I think you should attack Drake. If you're gonna attack Drake, do it cleverly. But because you say, "Oh, I have a house that's big enough to cover the houses that you have," that's fine. You have 50 million and buy the house that he's in. That's great. Quick question: what about Meek? What about Meek when he was in jail? What about Meek? Right? What about Meek? What about Meek? Right? And then it seems petty, but let's talk about it. 50 Cent, right? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. You got 50 money, and then that show got canceled in Miami. Like, let's talk about it. I think if we talk about it, I think that'll be a different story. But I think let's talk about it, especially from a perspective where you're like, oh, well, I'm better. It was not really. And so I was curious. I really was curious. And people were saying that they knew you specifically from what you had done with Drake. And so I was curious, what hits? And a lot of people are saying that we're going to get hits from them if he pays that fine. It's weird, right? It's weird, right? Because you say that's the reason that you're not cool with Drake is because of what he did to French Montana and calling the police. Which, I mean, if he's calling the police and you had an issue with it, why didn't you stop it then? Because we could talk about that Black Market album, right? And you talk about ghostwriters, right? And the royalties you're supposed to get. But like that's not discussed well enough because you don't what are we talking about? If you want to bring it up, talk about it. Do ghostwriters, that's cool. Ghostwriters got no push behind it. I'm fine for it. But then you have to not act like you have to act like you have to not act like you didn't just do apple your eye to diss Meek Mill, right? Like you see the contradictions here, right? And I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, or idols become rivals. You have to be transparent when you do it, because if you don't, what are we doing here, though, bro? Because I feel like you call Drake on some stuff, but people can call you out on the same stuff. 50 Cent would be a great example. Because Idols becomes rivals of that same album rather than you. It's literally two songs that are dissing somebody. Right? So, like Ross, if you're gonna come at Drake, come at Drake. But the problem is, I don't know if you can't. You don't see the hypocrite. You don't see the hypocrite. You don't see it being a hypocrite. But I don't get it. Cause you go and I just become rivals. You also go, I grow with that. I grow with that bling bling money, right? Ross, come on now. Prove it, my boy. Prove it. Hey, you got the facts, back it up. But it's like, come on now. It's it's cool, but it's like, then somebody pressed you at one of your Toronto shows. Ross, the evidence isn't looking good, my boy. It's not looking good, Ross. It's not looking good, Ross. It's really not. Because then you say you would die for the streets, and we could break that down a couple times. But like you have to take some, like you have to be able to talk about the facts and prove them. But at the same time, every time you diss on rather you than me, it just seems like a bunch of diss records at either McNeil, another artist. It just seems like a diss, and then you get champagne moments to, I don't know, ride the hype of the Kendrick and Drake beef, which at the time was at its highest. We're a year later, and I'm like, you do an interview saying you addressed your issues with it, but if you're saying that he wasn't the same guy in that video when guys had guns, it's like that's strange, right? That's strange because it's like, from what technical standpoint are you standing on? Because every time you diss somebody, you're like, these gun bars, and that's fine, but you have to also, there has to be some factual proof. Like, there's factual proof of what King Von did, and rest in peace, King Von. I'm not talking bad about King Von, but let's be clear. Let's be clear though, or YNW Melly. Let's be clear. Now, both of those cases, YW Melly isn't getting. He's getting a bond on one charge, but he's not getting out because I think Florida's at one. There's a few states where you can pay for one bond and get out, but there's not. Florida's not that state. He got out. He got bond on one charge, but he didn't get bond on the other. So it really doesn't matter. He's gonna be locked out for a little bit, until trial. But like, this is essentially what I'm talking about. Like, you either don't see the hypocrite part of it, or you don't see it, right? Because you diss people and then you go, hey, I'm not sure. But let's talk about a diss that like isn't a year out, and it dropped what? Oh, it dropped what? The 6th, the 5th. And this is Stormzy's freestyle, and I like this freestyle. It's the sorry freestyle that he dropped May 7th, right? This freestyle in itself, where he talks about that his fans were going to change on him because of the McDonald's deal, and I'm not here to bring it into political, but it was the fact that they didn't think that he was supporting a country, which he breaks down and disses fans and basically says, I am, but if this is the deterrent that I've spoken out about it, but if this is the deterrent that pushes you away from it, then I understand, but my mother will always love me, right? This is the thing. He just talks about religion a little bit, but he also talks about some serious things. He's like, the only people that I praise is this, right? And it's one of those diss tracks, and when you listen to it, the combination of ambulance sirens, it's the beat, it's just the way that it fades into each other. It's one of the best beats I've heard from Stormzy that has has a fade and a fade out, right? It's one of the best I've ever heard. But though, with that being said, though, you hear him on the other side where it's Hold Me Down, his other single that came out. And his other single that came out, you kind of hear, not really vengeful, right? Not really vengeful, but he's not talking directly to fans. He's just talking to himself and how he's been more vulnerable over these songs. How he's been able to be more vulnerable, and says that he does cry, and that's a fair statement. I think the stereotype, or the things that men shouldn't cry, and that's not always the case, and it probably shouldn't be the case. But for a lot of people, that is the stereotype they um align themselves with, right? But let's like, but that's the thing though. Like, if we're having a genuine conversation, we should be have these genuine conversations in less than a minute. And I think, when we're not, wherever you stand in this argument, essentially that we shouldn't be able to talk about that we really shouldn't be able to talk about like the men's idea of this album. I think it's of this is a song essentially because it feels like an album because I played it so many times. But this song where he just is trying to be more vulnerable with his fans, and it's a single. And I'm hoping the "Hold Me Down" single is a single to an album. That's what I'm hoping. Because Little Sims has an album, June 6th. Lil Wayne has an album June 6th, so that'll be fun. So, like I said, this will be interesting, but I'm not entirely sure where this leads us currently, right? Because it's essentially we're having this conversation because we think that Wayne isn't the best. Um, you know what? I rephrase this. If Rick Ross wanted to do it, why didn't you pay Wayne? You had the money. You said you had $50 million to buy a house. Why didn't you pay Wayne? Right? Because Wayne was only $5 million, and Birdman officially, I think they officially paid him. But you're saying that Drake had changed, but like, what's up with that, right? Right? Because you have unanswered disses, right, from 50 Cent, I believe. Um, but where's that heat for 50 Cent? If you want to be genuine at somebody. But the issue is when you have artists diss you and you don't respond to it, it does seem a kind of way. And let's talk. I think 7 Minute Joe, for what it is, it's a freestyle. Maybe one of the best. Now, essentially, who's the better? I don't know. Like, I think there's certain ones that I do like. I think I do like Push Ups or Family Matters, right? From this standpoint. I do like Euphoria from Kendrick's standpoint. I'm not I like 16 in LA, but my second for Kendrick would have to be Meet the Grams. And the only reason Meet the Grams is great is because I love what The Alchemist is able to bring out of people. It brings a hostile energy out of people when he gets into those darker beats. Um, I don't know. And J. Cole, 7 Minute Drill. I think that's a good diss, but I do think he pulled it out because it was getting too serious. Now, if we go 7 Minute Drill, Port Antonio, I'm gonna go Port Antonio. So it's weird. At that same time, though, I've seen people talk about this, and I don't know why people aren't talking about this. But the 7 greatest R&B artists is 7 Minute White, Mount Rushmore of white artists. This is interesting to me because I've heard many different takes on it. So if we go R&B, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go Genuine, Life Jennings, R&B. Like so I want to say Luther, and then I also want to say Luther, but I also want to say R. Kelly because vocally they're great artists. But the question becomes who has more range. And I think Michael Jackson, even though he's a pop artist, you know what? I'll do that. I'll do. I will do. God, I messed up. But let's do white artists. I'm gonna have to go to Beastie Boys. I'm gonna have to go to Beastie Boys. I'm gonna have to go Eminem. I want to show Houston some love, so I'm gonna have to go Paul Wall for the South because he did make some hits. Oh, there's something controversial, right? Because I think enough though, because I have to be fair. The search put a lot of people on, and so I think NF would have to be that fourth spot, right? Because Eminem has the 2001 lock. The Beastie Boys created a lane for Eminem, and then we could go Proof because Eminem and Proof made D12. Um, Paul Wall because he had Houston in the South really bumping his music. Um, Yeah, I'm gonna have to go NF. I can't go Logic because while I think Logic's Pressure is great, I think a lot of his songs, uh, his albums are great. I think NF's The Search has more of an impact for a lot of different artists that didn't want to go specifically rap but could go rap. Um, let's talk about what is it? Is it hip hop? Oh, okay. Hip hop, hip hop, hip hop, hip hop. Um, so if you take Biggie and Pac out, right? I'm gonna do my top five. I'm gonna go Redman. I'm gonna go. See, if I go Method Man, then I gotta go RZA. Uh, and I don't want to go Wu Tang across the board. But Cool J Jack the Ripper is one of like the best production wise, like one of the best production diss tracks I've heard. You know what, Jada? No, I'm going Jada because of Problem Child. Like Problem Child is one of my favorite diss tracks. Um, so we got Redman. See, I want to go Lupe, but I just feel like the people I've picked, people don't know about. So let me go. Hmm, that's tough, right? Because I think when we go hip hop, it's it's gonna depend, right? Because I want to say that Black Thought is in my top 10, right? I want to say Black Thought's in my top 10. That's without a doubt. Um, but that also means Nas is in my top 10 because they're subject matter, and that means that Pac would be in my top 10 because they're storytellers. Um, and they've all done activism in different ways. Redman, his category with Method Man has been great. Their new album's great, by the way. Check that out. Um, ooh, uh, so Redman. You know what? I'll go Redman, Black Thought, Nas. See, if I go Carrots, one, they're all pre 2000s. I'll go J Cole. Um, and J Electro. See, that's the thing. If I do Lupe, if I do Black Thought, and if I do J Cole, I like. I like 2024 So Drive. I like Kids on Drugs. This is the issue because I'm not necessarily sure who do you call though. Lupe. Yeah, I'm not sure who you call. Not Lupe. See, I don't know. I think my top. It's difficult because you go, hey, not, and if you do it the way I like Problem Child from Jada because Jada can rap. That would put see like it's Dipset. Um, but then Cameron's diss to Jay Z. Uh, okay. Um, I do it strictly from diss tracks. It'll go Lupe, J Electronica, Jada Kiss from Problem Child. Okay, so we got Lupe, Nas, Jada Kiss, Lupe, Jada Kiss, Nas for Ether. Um, I like No Vaseline, but Lupe's going on this list. Jada Kiss, Nas. Um, do I go LL for being able to see? That's what if I go LL. I don't know if LL is right though. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would have to go Nas, Lupe, Jada Kiss. I'll go LL Cool J. And I'm gonna have to go Ice Cube because I like No Vaseline. I think No Vaseline's a great diss track at NWA. Um, but Eminem has Warning Shot. Um, ooh, ooh. Okay, so let's say Warning Shot is great. Kamikaze is great. The Fall is great. Let's talk about Kill Shot. Kill Shot's really done. Um, Ether has become a verb. I mean Ether to you. Oh, Nas. Ooh. Okay, you know what? That's it. I take it. Oh, Cool J out. So it'll be Jadakiss, Nas, Lupe, Eminem, SQ, No Vaseline. Yeah, it's that's tricky. Oh, that's tricky. Because my UK rap would be Stormzy, Little Sims, um, Dave, um, I don't think Dave. And I'll go Central C. I'll go to top artist of the. I'll go top hit. I want to say Skep, but I'm not sure people know. So I'll go Central C. Um, yeah, I'll give it to those four. Um, that's a little easier though, because that's more like preference, right? Um, because that's Wales, yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like it's when we get into these like Mount Rushmore things, I'm like, I don't know how you do them because, in all fairness, I think No Vaseline is a great diss track, but I also feel that Ether is one of the better ones. Yeah, I don't know. Overall, though, I don't know. How do you rank this list? I think either list is gonna be crazy. All my lists were crazy, but I think my diss track list is better because it's see I don't know. I think if you take away from Jay Electronica's Curse of the Mayweather, then we don't get Lupe's Steve Jobs, Royce, and then we don't get I don't know. That's why Lupe's on it. That's why Lupe's on it. Jada Kiss, uh, Jada Kiss or Ice Cube would be that mix that I share. Um, and I think you can get No Vaseline when no Curse of the Mayweather, but I think you can Curse of the Mayweather without No Vaseline. That's what I would switch. So with that being said, I really do hope you enjoy this episode of this podcast. We will definitely see you in the next one because this is probably going to run a little bit over. With that being said, though, I do hope you enjoy.